Hey, welcome to Lather Games Splurge Day. You pick your most expensive setup. I've come close. I've used some other of my expensive things in other days, and so basically it's your most expensive stuff that you don't plan on using any of the other days in the month. So, one of my favorite brush handles is the vintage 400 Rubberset. This is kind of a copy or inspired by that. It's not as nice as it because the fluting here is a little smaller. You can see it's thicker. The ridge is thicker, which means that the fluting is smaller. I've got big fingers. I'd rather have that, but I'm trying it out to see if I get used to it. I've only got about half a dozen shaves on this handle. And this is a Declaration B5 knot, which is my favorite Declaration knot by far. I haven't tried any others, but this one is the one that has the lowest backbone, is what they say. So I think it's pretty easy to assume that it's going to be my favorite. So we are finally back home after traveling. Also want to show my Barrister and Man shave towel that I got when I ordered my 42 soap from them in the Excelsior base, and the towel is actually the reason I placed that order. And then I thought, let me try out 42. My tastes have a little bit, and so I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did. So I've got that now. Feels great. The expensive soap that we're going to use today is XPEC. Somebody sent me a sample of the original fellow shaver, and I'm very grateful. I used it last year in the Lather Games, and I pretty much scraped out the last bit of soap in here, and I scraped out enough to fill my 1/4 teaspoon measure. Now here's the catch. It got pretty firm, as you would imagine, sitting there for a year, even sealed up in this little container, because I mean it's not exactly airtight. So it was actually a pretty firm sample. Definitely not a cream, which is what the XPEC is. XPEC is $60 for a jar of it. Now before you go off, that's $60 for 8 fluid ounces. Now your typical tub these days is more like 4 fluid ounces. So already we can cut that $60 in half and say it's $30 for a comparable size to some of these other guys. So already it's not too expensive compared to some other things. Even MDC, that was another alternative for an expensive soap. But if you look at Martin de Condre, it lasts longer than a year. And so if you divide up the per shave, it's actually a fairly economical soap. Okay, so even these two expensive soaps don't turn out to be quite so expensive once you actually do the math. The blade that is in the razor is my Kai, which I believe might be my most expensive blade. And the thing is, a lot of times I'll use a blade at least 30 times before I pitch it. And so even expensive blades that might be $1 a blade all of a sudden are within reach, because $1 a month for blades, All right, and the razor that has the blade in it is this open comb. You can see the teeth, and this is a 61. I think it's the standard gap, the Wolfman 61, and it's in open comb. And I do enjoy it, so we'll enjoy that. All right, as usual, splash of water on face. And then we will get this brush nice and wet. Take my bowl, and I've pressed the 1/4 teaspoon in there. Shake most of the water out. And here we go. Now, wouldn't it be cool if we found out that the XPEC didn't need to be put in terms of a 1/4 teaspoon? So if this generates 6, 7 passes for us, then maybe that $30 per 4 ounces maybe you only have to use half as much product. And all of a sudden, you know, if you use half as much product, then that's $15 for, compared to a, you know, $17 for somebody else's 4 ounces. So all of a sudden, this is not an expensive cream. So we'll see. Now the smell, you know, that's going to be the thing. I don't know that I will ever want. Oh yeah, this is looking nice already. I don't know if I'll ever want to own this guy. Off the dry puck, I could pick up a little bit of lemon, mostly the tuberose, maybe a hint of ginger, but that's one of the things you would have had to tell me, and then I could look for it and find it. And that's roughly about it. It was strong on the rose. And so it smelled like just a standard kind of rose scent. Nothing really special about it. Nothing creative. It almost smelled like some other scent that I'd experienced. And so, I mean, if I'm going to pay a good bit for soap, I want it to be special. It's very feminine. I am smelling something a little different than just what I smelled off the dry. I don't know which element it is. I don't know how fennel smells. Isn't fennel... I think fennel might be the seed of the anise, so that might be kind of a harsh licorice kind of scent. I wasn't really impressed with the performance last year with this, but my lathering skills may have improved, and so I could have a total different experience with it this year. Put in 1 teaspoon of water. Lather's looking pretty good so far. Yeah, it's just smelling like a basic rose type scent. So I would not be interested in, even if I figured out that this was actually an economical soap cream. I don't want to bring rose into my business. It's not my style. Some guys like it, and that's all right for them, but that's not me. I like smelling roses. I like it when my little girl brings me nice smelling flowers, but I don't want to smell like them. I'm starting to smell a little bit of the thyme now, I think. I think I could pick out a little bit of the lemon when it was dry, but it was mainly rose forward. The rose is backing off a little bit now that it's in wet form here. Appearance-wise, this looks like I need to add more water to it, but let us just feel it. Yeah, see, look, it's kind of a water slippery. It's definitely not a fatty slippery like a good tallow soap. So I feel like I should not add more water to this. I may have already added too much just because the appearance is different. So let's work it a little bit, maybe condense it down to be more creamy with less air in it. See if that helps. Looks like it'll be plenty of soap to do the job, which is nice. Let's see how it looks, just to show you where we're stopping. During the shave, obviously, I'll be able to tell whether this was too early, too late, or whatever. See, it's pretty fixed. Maintains those pointy edges, maintains its shape. So pretty high structure. Let's do the pull. Little bit of stretch to it. Look now, that guy, see, he doesn't really droop very much. He sticks out horizontal. So that'll tell you a little bit about the viscosity here, the structure. All right, so I'm going to wet my face a little bit more. All right, 42 towel, enjoying that. All right. About 24 hours of growth. That's what we're dealing with here. Yeah, that rose is definitely coming out. We'll scrubbed for a little bit. Now we'll switch to painting. And that's usually when you're really able, in the painting strokes, to watch how the lather lays on your face. Watch how it spreads. If it looks patchy. If it lays down in a nice even layer. Looks like this guy might be about right. So I will go ahead and shave with him. All right. Kai blade is not usually my friend, so this could be interesting. Especially, it's sometimes the Kai in a mild razor is kind of nice because it tames the Kai a little bit. This is going pretty well. It's kind of giving a, I do hear the cutting. I do feel the cutting, but there's no tugging. There's no roughness. I guess it's just holding the blade very securely so we can just enjoy that nice sharp edge. Definitely smell the rose. And the other parts in it that I thought I might like have not cropped out enough. They've come up a little bit to kind of keep the rose from being too feminine, but it's still, in my opinion, squarely in the feminine rose category. And pause. That rinse was pretty disappointing in terms of feeling a sense of luxury and creaminess. Could it be because I thinned it out too much? Sure, maybe. So what I did was I dabbed my face with my towel, and we'll see if I get a different feel now. But, I mean, sterling was nicer, and it's at a fraction of the cost. Sudsy Soapery, tried that the other night, and it had a much more luxurious feel. So going on a dry face, we'll see if the experience is a little different. Of course, one pass has happened, and so we have already reduced the hair quite a bit. So by default, that's just going to be smoother. It looks too dry, but let's just give it a shot because this might be just kind of a high structure lather that I just need to adjust my preferences and put it on my face a little drier than I usually like and just see if that brings the cream, if you will. Well, I'm enjoying the Kai with this razor. It's not being super smooth, like, wow, it's cutting so well and I can't really feel it cutting. But it feels just kind of normal. I do feel like I'm getting good protection and glide from the cream, and so maybe this slightly drier application was a good idea. Yeah, ladylike. I get that rose. 4 to 5 out of 10 for scent strength, is my guess. All right, let's rinse. So I would not want to go any drier than this mix. And even on the second pass, which is almost always kind of creamier than the first, just kind of lackluster. So I have no desire to grab up any of this soap. Zero. The scent is definitely not for me. But even if I found one of the scents, I mean, the performance is good. It's protecting my skin, but there are just so many other options that give me a awesome, slick, luxurious feel during the rinsing and that sort of thing that I just don't want to bother with this, let alone something with a larger price tag. But I am very glad for the opportunity to try it. And yeah, it looks like maybe a quarter teaspoon, an eighth of a teaspoon, which is half of the measure that I used, might be enough to give you 3 passes. And so it really could be a moderately priced soap by the time you really figured out the math. Because Rbrst, man, I've got to use the full quarter teaspoon, where this one I could definitely use at least 2/3 of that measure, maybe half of that measure. And then all of a sudden, if you like this cream, it becomes reachable. It becomes a just as expensive as anything else out there. Pretty cool. Very comfortable passes now. I do feel a little bit of cutting, but it's very, very comfortable. I feel secure. I don't feel like I'm about to cut myself. I feel like if I went the wrong direction, if I went against the grain, I could probably I might give myself some razor rash, but it feels very solid, safe, confident, that kind of thing. So this razor does seem to handle a Kai pretty well. I like that. All right, let's rinse this off. Well, the result here is not that great. So I'm gonna have to do a touch-up pass in this area right here. This blade's on its 5th or 6th use. I've taken a feather so far to maybe 30 or something. It'd be a shame if Kai couldn't keep up. I will do a little inspection here. So yeah, not a great shave today. A good one. Mostly dots is what I see. There are a few hairs that I see a little bit of length on, and that, to be honest, I haven't really had a problem with for quite a while. So maybe this combo just isn't quite aggressive enough, efficient enough for my skin. Okay, it might be a great match for you. All right, but it certainly did feel good, you know, so there's that. And I got a good shave out of it. How much water did I use? Pretty sure it was just 1.5 teaspoons. How much lather do I have left over? I bet I could make 3 passes from this. So, you know, I think it's actually a pretty economical soap by the time you drill down. You only use as much soap as you need, and you calculate it on a per use basis. So that's interesting. So the other notes that were in this soap, I mentioned the thyme, the lemon, the tuberose, fennel. I mentioned ginger, but there's also supposed to be pepper, cedar, and oak musk. Those last ones I didn't really perceive. Maybe because it was an old sample, but maybe because it's just a smaller part. It's just being an accent, you know. Wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But those are some notes that are supposed to be in there as well. But for me, the rose was very dominant. A slight accent of lemon, even smaller accent of ginger, I believe I was able to detect. And then once it was in lather form, those other ones kind of remained. The rose backed off a little bit, but it was still pretty much dominant rose. But I was able to pick up, I think, the thyme. And maybe one of those other things that I don't quite know how to identify. So there we go. Now, if I looked at XPEC and saw another scent that they had, so this is the original. If I looked and they had something else that looked attractive, would I try it? I might try if I could get a sample. But but shelling out that much for a big old tub, even if I knew it would last me a long time, the performance just, to me, wasn't there. There are just so many other better soaps that give me a better feel when I rinse. They give me better slickness. And so for that reason, I probably don't need to bring any more XPEC into my den. But I can see why people might like it. It does perform, pretty well. That's what I would give it, pretty well. So there we go. For me, it seems to be a high structure, and so I need to mix it where it still stays kind of dry looking, a little bit more dry looking than what I usually try to go for. All right, post shave. Let me see. I think I have some Bon Vivant down below. I don't really have a large selection of post-shave products. It's all relative, I guess, but it's definitely not I don't have any really expensive post-shave stuff. It's all just basic balms. Most of it's secondhand market. We're talking $10. We're talking, $12, something like that. And so what I chose for today was the Bon Vivant from, what is it? Chatillon Luxe, I believe is how you pronounce that. And this is just the aftershave, and I like the scent okay. It's one of those where I don't want it tons on me. I enjoy the soap while I'm using it. I do have the soap, but the reason I picked this was it may not be my most expensive. It might be. I bought this secondhand, so I don't really know. It is the most sophisticated, the most thought out, the most purposeful of the scents that I have. In my opinion, I think it qualifies as that. So that's why I'm bringing it into this shave, because maybe time-wise it was the most expensive to create or something like that. I don't know. So let's throw on a little bit of this. Barely any stinging at all. So the Kai was nice to me today, at least in terms of comfort. Yeah, that's just a good scent, well developed. I mean, I can see why it's different. I can see why people might not, have love for it like I do. I think it's interesting, sophisticated, and creative. All right, I think we're pretty much all cleaned up. Hope there was something here for you. Maybe learning a little bit about XPEC. Now, and this is just my opinion of it. And this was an old sample, so truth in advertising there. I do have hard water at this location, and I used cool water during the shave. Lukewarm, well, tepid water, really. And so XPEC seems to do just fine in hard water, so that's good to know. The Kai, I thought it would be a little bit more efficient in this particular razor. It was comfortable enough, but not as efficient as I might have liked. But glad to be back home. Hope there was something here for you in this shave. And this is Sugar Daddy Shaves. You take care. Good night.